Lucius the Eternal is a space marine of the Emperor's Children. He is a champion of Slaanesh and is also known as the Soulthief, Fulgrim's champion, and the Scion of Chemos. He fought amongst members of Squad Nasicae during the reconquest of Istvaan III, who went on to become his bodyguard and eventually his warband. During his youth on Chemos, Lucius became noted for his talent and ability to master nearly any talent. He quickly gained sponsors among the elites of the planet, and he gravitated towards the art of war, most notably swordsmanship. He displayed perhaps sadistic tendencies early on, killing individuals he claimed were beggars and brigands that had attacked him first. He proved to be a poor teacher, often scarring his pupils, or cutting off an eye or finger in an accident. When he took part in an annual swordsmanship contest on Chemos, Lucius garnered the attention of a hulking stranger in the shadows. He dueled against a famed champion twice his age, and after suffering a blow to his stomach, took apart his opponent piece by piece. As he was about to be attacked by the champion's supporters and disciples, Lucius was saved by a sergeant of the Emperor's Children, who inducted him into the Legion. During the Great Crusade, Lucius was the captain of the 13th Company of the Legion. His skill with a blade quickly became legendary among the Legion. Other members of the Emperor's Children considered Lucius to be proud, foolhardy, and sometimes a little childish. Even his closest friend in the Legion, Soulthief, was wary of him. He was never bested in swordplay. The only duel he is known to have lost was against Captain Garviel Loken of the Lunar Wolves, who brought him down with a punch. In a later rematch, however, Lucius was victorious. Lucius took part in the War on Murder, where he fought with an ornate antique sword, forged in the smithies of the Urals by artisans of the Terawatt clan, true relic of the Unification Wars. In the Betrayal of Istvaan III, Lucius found himself betrayed by the legion he loved and found himself fighting alongside Soulthief with the loyalist marines of the Emperor's Children. As it became apparent that it was Tarvitz who was the hero of the hour for the loyalists, Lucius grew jealous and betrayed his erstwhile friend to the traitor legions as his hunger for glory overcame his already dwindled sense of honor. He did this by attacking a group of 30 loyal marines who were assigned to him. He, however, did not do this alone. While fighting his own men, Captain Solomon Demeter arrived at Lucius's position. Lucius cried out for help, and thus duped Captain Demeter to think the marines Lucius was fighting were traitors. Unfortunately, Demeter realized this after the last of the 30 marines were killed. Lucius and Demeter, who had a mutual dislike toward each other, became locked in combat, during which Lucius killed the already wounded Demeter. With the heresy raging, his combat skills were quickly recognized, and he quickly became the leader of Fulgrim's bodyguard of assault marines, gaining the rank of Lord Commander. He became troubled by dreams that made him convinced that Fulgrim was possessed by some entity, and led other top-ranking members of the Legion, including Fabius Bile and Marius Virocian, in the capture of the Primarch. After ineffective torture and an attempted exorcism, Fulgrim admitted that he had been possessed, but had gotten rid of the demon himself. Lucius followed his Primarch on his quest for the Angel Exterminatus, an ancient Xenos superweapon that could turn the tide of the heresy. During this mission, Lucius twice crossed swords with Nicona Sharakin of the Raven Guard. The first time Lucius came away with a scar on one cheek. The second time, on Idris, Sharakin gave him a matching scar and then killed him with 2 blades through his hearts. Lucius died on Idris and awakened resurrected in Fabius's Apothecarian, amazed to be alive. After the events on Idris, a disgruntled Lucius set out alone in search of a worthy challenge. He crossed paths with Hathor Mart of the Thousand Sons, whom he despised for being so alike to a younger Lucius. Mart told Lucius of Sanact, a peerless swordsman of the Thousand Sons, and his tower on the planet of sorcerers. Lucius, still enraged by his defeat at the hands of Nicona Sharokin, set out to challenge Sanact to a duel. Learning that none of the Thousand Sons' Corvady seers were able to prophesy Sanact's eventual defeat in combat only served to feed Lucius's ambition. After a long-winded journey, Lucius reached Sanact's tower. The swordsman welcomed Lucius's challenge. Sure of his own victory, Sanact asked Lucius if he was eager to die, to which Lucius replied that he had already experienced death once. Sanact accurately claims that Lucius sought him out to understand why he came back from the dead. In the unfolding duel, Sanact was always a step ahead of Lucius, taunting his natural ability as being inferior to his own learned skill. Lucius was surprised to receive tips on his own technique from the Thousand Sons swordsman, but refused the notion of requiring help. As Lucius unleashed his full fury upon Sanact, he eventually managed to overwhelm the Thousand Son, disarming him. Before he could deal the killing blow, however, Azek Ahriman, the greatest sorcerer of the entire Thousand Sons Legion, stepped in to halt Lucius's blade with a psychic barrier, stating that he would shield Sanact, even though the Thousand Son himself would not have. The sorcerer stated that Sanact couldn't fall as he would soon have need of him. Following this, Lucius accompanied Ahriman on his quest to retrieve the Iron Oculus for the sole purpose of waiting for an opportunity to battle Sanact. Lacking a proper moment, he stayed part of Ahriman's group during the subsequent search for the shards of Magnus, their Primarch's fractured form. During this mission, his facial scars were healed by Thousand Sons, Captain Hathor Mart. Lucius was part of the Thousand Sons search for the shards of Magnus on Comiti Sona, and when on the station, came to battle Yasu Nagasena, a human agent of Malkador the Sigillite, designated the Seer Hunter. Lucius was able to best the skilled but non-augmented swordsman and casually threw him from a causeway, although unbeknownst to him, the human survived. Afterwards, Lucius continued to accompany Ahriman's cabal, falling under the sway of the demon inside the Iron Oculus and manipulating Hathor Mart into changing the Book of Magnus at the creature's behest. On Nicaea, the Thousand Sons and their imperial enemies both became trapped within a crystal labyrinth summoned by the possessed Lemuel Galman. Inside the labyrinth, Lucius was confronted by the forms of Sanact, Garviel Loken, and Nicona Sharokin, defeating them all but becoming enraged when he saw a reflection of his previous uncorrupted self. In his fury, the duelist was swallowed by the crystal maze. Although he was assumed lost, Lucius was later miraculously able to escape the maze, returning just in time for the Siege of Terra. When Fulgrim was forced by Lorgar to rejoin the traitor war effort, the Primarch let out a great cry across the warp, ordering the Emperor's children to return to his side in preparation for the siege. Lucius was seen hearing the call on Netis, surrounded by scattered limbs. The battle for Terra was, of course, ultimately a failure, after the heretics had been repelled. And the heresy concluded, Lucius continued to hone and improve his combat skills as his legion began to worship Slaanesh. Fulgrim organized gladiatorial games on their new home planet whenever the legion was unable to vent its need for the pleasure of the kill on other worlds, and Lucius was undefeated in these, an unstoppable force until he fought Lord Commander Sirius. Lucius died, and his death was an experience of such transcendent pleasure that Slaanesh himself took notice. He could not let such a promising marine slip away. In the following days, Sirius began to change. Lines began to appear over his skin, and his hair started to fall out. Lucius was back in the world of the living, and all that remained of Sirius was a screaming face in the warped artificer armor. This has happened many times since then. Whenever his killer takes even the tiniest moment of enthusiasm, pleasure, or satisfaction from besting Lucius, they will begin to change into him and become just another swirling face, a memory in the armor in which Lucius is clad. Not even the mechanical Necrons are immune from this curse, as the phasing sword has learned. After every death, Lucius has been reborn again, as arrogant and maniacal as ever, and immediately looking for a new challenge to fight. After the Battle of Thessalia, Fulgrim left his legion to its fate and retired on a demon world called Kallax. Many Emperor's children saw this as a rejection by their Primarch, though Lucius did not. As Fulgrim was gone, a leadership struggle erupted in the Legion, with Lucius, Eidolon, and Fabius emerging as the leaders of the most prominent factions. Lucius was involved in the Legion Wars and fought in the Battle of Scalathrax, though his influence among the Emperor's children ultimately diminished. As time wore on, he was reduced to the leader of a small warband, dubbed the Squad Nasicae, after his old bodyguard. Regardless, he remained infamous and renowned among Chaos followers and continued to operate as Fulgrim's champion. At one point, the Primarch employed Lucius to kill a Fulgrim clone created by Fabius Bile. Over the course of thousands of years, Lucius hunted down and eliminated many great duelists. He defeated the Emperor's champion of the Black Templars at Veilfate, the Dark Eldar Archon Vraesk in Cursed Shardom, and the Orc warboss Two Claws at Octarius Sigma. After a series of reversals had reduced the cohorts Nasicae to about 20 Space Marines, Lucius was forced to cooperate with Fabius to replenish his warband. In the process, he was able to merge his force into a greater warband known as the Faultless. Ultimately, Lucius became part of Eidolon's Phoenix Conclave on Harmony. The duelist would later appear at the head of an army of Emperor's children during the 13th Black Crusade of Abaddon the Despoiler, inflicting untold suffering on the imperial world of Belisar. He was also a commander in the Speartip Alliance and coalition of Chaos and Xenos forces during the fall of Medusa V. As for his infamous physique, the champion is known for his scarred face. This is self-inflicted, as at one point he was a truly handsome man, but he resented being called too pretty by some of his fellow Marines. His perfect features were forever marred after the sparring match with Loken. The Lunar Wolf's punch had broken Lucius's nose, and much to his fury, it had refused to set properly, despite the attentions of the Legion's apothecaries. Sometime before Istvaan III, Lucius received a pair of scars across his cheeks from Remembrancer Serena de Angelis, a painter in the 28th expedition who had already been corrupted by Chaos, to remind him of Loken's insult to his perfection. He subsequently marked himself with more scars to commemorate his victories, eventually creating an intricate network of scars, distorting and deforming his features. He is armed with the Lash of Torment, a demon-infested whip, as well as the ornate sword known as the Blade of the Lair. Before taking up the Blade of Lair, Lucius was known to treat his weapons callously and wielded a master-crafted sword simply known as 19. His armor of shrieking souls, powered by the thousands of souls now trapped in it, offers him unnatural protection and allows him to discharge the cacophony generated by the tormented souls as a devastating sonic attack. To further augment his superhuman abilities, Lucius carries a combat stimulant rack on his back, designed by the Dark Eldar. He won the device after emerging as a champion in the gladiatorial arenas of Commorragh. In battle, this stim rack will inject him with combat drugs, and so the vindictive scarred duelist leads his warband across the galaxy. He has played an active role in the 13th Black Crusade through his warband, although he is not particularly leadership-focused. Furthermore, as rumors pass of the coming return of his Primarch Fulgrim, he is likely to play a pivotal role in the coming Dark Crusades of the Emperor's Children. Although he may be a great duelist, his real strength lies in the blessings of Slaanesh. For the enemies of chaos to truly banish him, they must do so without feeling an ounce of pleasure, a task which has proved next to impossible so far, due to his brash personality and great skill. Thank you for listening to this entry from the Warhammer 40,000 Lexicanum.